For this next question, we'll start with Commissioner Garcia. Gun control and violence have been a major issue in Chicago. President Trump has made Chicago the punching bag for this issue. What would you do to help stem the tide of illegal guns flowing into this community?
We need responsible gun legislation adopted at the national level. The advocates of the Brady bill and other advocates in Illinois, mostly from victims of gun violence, have the right ideas that respects and upholds the Second Amendment while protecting the public. One of the measures that I passed in Cook County on the Board of Commissioners 3 years ago was a requirement that gun owners, responsible gun owners who have guns in their homes, need to provide lock trigger mechanisms to ensure that accidents don't happen that will harm their children, but we need responsible gun legislation, and I have been a supporter of that for many years.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, I'm a Chicago police sergeant for the last 25 years, and there's not yet to be one case of a person that I've arrested for a gun violation who was authorized to carry a gun. The people that we need to worry about are not the responsible gun owners that know what the law is and what they're supposed to do. It's the folks that are going to have guns regardless of what the law says. So strengthening the gun laws is not going to prevent a delinquent from getting a gun. And so we need to really be vigilant and make sure that the police are out there and guarding the folks that they're supposed to protect. That's how we stop gun violence.
Ms. Flores.
You know, I've sat across the table from young people who've been victims of gun violence, and I've had mothers cry in front of us. So I've been there walking with them arm in arm, and my heart breaks for them. And we know, overwhelmingly in this country, we need to pass universal background checks. We need to stop loopholes. We need to control bump stocks. But more importantly, we also need to take a holistic approach to understanding violence in our communities. Young people can have other choices when they're strengthened, when there's opportunities to fair and accessible education, when there's opportunities for them to gain skills and schools that are loving and not judgmental and not kicking and pushing them out. These are the things that have young people make a decision between picking up a gun and going to school feeling safe in their own communities.
Thank you. Sergeant Gonzalez, education for many has become pretty much unattainable. Just to give you an example, on average in the state of Illinois, a student has more than $29,000 in tuition debt. So how do you propose to make college more affordable?
First of all, one of the things that we're missing here in Chicago that I think is very important is to bring back in the Chicago public school system a vocational program. Not everyone who graduates from high school is going to be or wanting to be doctors or lawyers, but we need great mechanics. We need folks that are skillful with their hands. And so one of the things that I think we should do is actually bring back in Chicago vocational programs so that folks who do not contemplate wanting to go back to college have an alternative. And that alternative is way less costly, and it's something that everyone here needs. On a day like today where it's freezing, if your heat goes bad, you're going to want an air conditioning heating guy to go out there and fix it. So let's bring vocational programs back to Chicago.
Ms. Flores?
Yeah, higher ed is incredibly important. I grew up in a family where we really struggled to cover my debt. In fact, today I can sit here and tell you I'm still paying down my own college debt. And I know that one of the things that's important is to have enrichment programs that help support families and students to make better decisions. I also know that we need to create innovative programs that allow young people different access and different ways to higher ed. For example, I have worked to create the first homeless youth in college program right here in Chicago, in which we're allowing young people with a minimum GPA of 2.0 who were homeless to go to school full-time and then be supported socially and academically. When I go to Washington, D.C., these are the types of programs that I'm going to work in community with to bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Achieving higher education without a crushing debt has become more and more difficult for young people. 70% of college seniors have and will have a debt once they graduate of about $30,000. That is the average. In order to address that challenge, We need a college for all legislation. I am a supporter of the bill that Senator Bernie Sanders is championing in the Senate that has many House sponsors in it that would make college access at public colleges and universities free across the country. The bill would provide 2/3 funding to the states. The states would be responsible for 1/3 match. It would be financed through a tax on financial transactions on Wall Street. It's what we need in addition to vocational training.
Thank you very much. Ms. Flores, the Supreme Court will soon be deciding a very important case that weighs religious freedoms against protecting against discrimination for people in the LGBT community. Where do you stand on the issue? How does this get resolved?
It's been my greatest honor to be the strongest LGBTQ ally absolutely possible. You know, I have a friend in the audience here today, Kenny, and he talks to me about the first time that he got to ride the bus to Boys Town and put on his real identity. I've worked for the last 15 years to support young people and families across the city, making sure that they can be their true selves. When I get to Washington, D.C., I will fight to put down any type of legislation that it infiltrates and that discriminates against our civil rights. It is unacceptable. And I will be a fighter for that, the way I've been a strong ally for the community for the last 15 and a half years.
Commissioner Garcia.
I have been a champion of human rights across the board, even when it wasn't politically popular to do so. In 1988, when the City Council passed its first human rights ordinance, I voted for it. I helped get other members of the City Council who were insecure about it. Even that there were some threats that we might be excommunicated. If we did this, it was the right thing to do. It withstood the test of time. Now most people and most politicos are in favor of it. This is the courage that's required to stand with people when they're under attack and recognizing that unless we protect the rights of all of us will one day be under attack and feel like our rights are not being respected.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, the LGBTQ community is a growing population here in Chicago, and they should be afforded the exact rights that everyone should. That should not even be a question of what we're asking right now. We should not be differentiating people based on their sexual orientation. My commitment to the LGBTQ community is such that currently I am building 88 units of affordable housing in the First Ward that is geared toward the LGBTQ community. I really don't understand why we've gotten into this mess where we start classifying folks and acting as if they were less than anyone else. We should not be doing that. We are all equal, and I'm all for the LGBTQ community.